Welcome to Life Is A Rollercoaster, a podcast about the past, present, and future of the events and attractions industry. If you like future updates about our podcasts, please like and subscribe.
Tracy, because I'm going to remember to introduce myself this time, along with James Mellors. And we've just heard the news that obviously things are going to be starting back up and open in April the 12th to be exact. So we're all going to get us party hats on and let's go and get back out there. And are you looking forward to it, James?
Of course I am. The same as everybody. I mean, we've always been an outdoor industry. You know, everybody enjoys working outside. The rides have obviously been outside. When I was moving the rides back in the fairground days, everything was outside, and all of a sudden this lockdown restrictions stay in. It's not what we're used to doing. But I don't think just myself, but even though, you know, our industry and the showman, everybody are used to touring around the country and seeing different people, the same thing for everybody, isn't it? It's been an absolute shocking time. So really looking forward to it. It's been a weird time though. I think especially like with a lot of the rides, thinking about it in Saudi, for instance, we've had rides which have been closed for 12 months. So you had 12 months just talking about things, and now all of a sudden it seems like you've got a date to move to. And I think that's the same thing for a lot of the showmen. A lot of people didn't get out of the depots, did they? Nobody moved.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it's move again. And I don't know. I think it's quite exciting. It's almost like that first time of turning out again. So,
Which part are you looking forward to the most, though? Is it going to be the actual back to business side, or the getting out there yourself as well?
Both. I think getting out there, seeing the rides open is always a thing. Winter times was always good when you could get stuck into what you're doing, repainting rides, whatever else like that. But I think you always got that sense of satisfaction when you saw everything up and running again. There was nothing like, you know, people screaming on the rides, and it almost sounds like a cliche, but that is kind of the pleasure part of the, you know, you enjoy building it. I told you before.
Yeah.
I used to enjoy building the rides. I mean, I remember.
Are you going to be back out doing that again though this year?
I probably not so much, because we're doing less and less traveling now, aren't we, out on the roads?
Yeah.
But I probably will be doing some building. I will be doing a bit again overseas, less here, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully we'll still be doing a bit of it.
No,
back to Goose Fare and all them again.
Good. Obviously, as well as everything that of yours that's opening up, everywhere else that's opening up, is there anywhere that you're planning personally on going, and are you looking forward to riding anything?
I think I'll definitely make a visit to a couple of parks this year.
We've got a lot of new openings this year as well.
There is a lot of new.
We've just had Poltons have just announced their new roller coasters and parks opening. Is it Tornado Springs?
Tornado Springs, yes. And that looks great, actually, when I've looked at the drawings and the designs and everything. Polton's Park, you know, they've done amazing, haven't they, really, since the opening of Peppa Pig. I remember we were down in Bournemouth. I think the first time we went to Bournemouth would have been 2004, maybe, something like that. And we went to Polton's Park. In fact, my boy was born in 2005, and we remember going just to the park pre-Peppa Pig. And it was just a small little park. So to see, you know, the vision that they had of bringing in this big brand, obviously the same as Drayton Manor did with Thomas, but they've gone on from strength to strength. So they really are a great park at the minute, Polton. So it'd be impressive to see what they've done.
No, good. It's what else we've got opening as well? There's the 10 looping coaster at Flamingo Land. Do you want to go and try that one?
Probably not. I've never been to Flamingo Land, actually. That's one of the parks I've never been to. Always wanted to go, because one of the coasters I was interested in buying years ago was the Zamperla Volare. And I actually had the drawings for it. I planned on how many trailers I could make it transport on. And then I heard that they got one here, and I thought, wow, I need to go and see this ride. And then I actually had a ride on one in Coney Island, and it wasn't my favorite coaster. So
no, they've got a bad reputation, haven't they?
They have. And it's a shame, because I really wanted one, because they're so compact. I thought, imagine that on the traveling circuit. And that's where I was thinking for it years ago. And I've seen, I think there's only 3 manufactured. And I've seen 2 of them now. I've seen the one which is in Vienna, and I've seen the one which is in Coney Island, and I haven't seen the Hero, which is at Flamingo Land. But I think the idea was great. The lying down, unfortunately, like you say, with the cages, and it just was a little bit too claustrophobic, and the track probably doesn't allow the ride to do what it wanted to do, to allow you to feel like flying, because you just, it's a bit more of a mouse track, isn't it? Turning in and out. So no, like Flamingo Land's one of the places I haven't been to.
No, it's actually quite a good park.
My kids went up there with my dad, I think last year or the year before. They went for a day out and they enjoyed it.
Yeah,
they really enjoyed it.
No, it's got some good coasters up there. I like the Velocity, the Vekoma bike coaster.
Right,
that's really good. You have to try that one.
So it's a mini launch coaster, isn't it?
One. Yeah, it's a good one. That. Obviously, when everything opens back, there's still going to be some measures in place. But do you think that everything will eventually get back to normal?
Normal? No, not completely normal. I think things will be, the social distancing. I think not just because of government rules. I think also people will. I think some people have always had a bit of an anxiety, let's say, of people being close. Some people didn't want, claustrophobia, small spaces. And I think this now will probably play on people's minds for a while. So it depends on what's normal, but normal operations of the rides, people back on the seats. Yeah, of course it will.
No, that's what we want to hear.
Everybody wants some normality, don't we?
No, exactly. Obviously sorry, my phone's just going crazy there. Obviously we everything that's gone off and everybody's going back out now. Do you think that we might see some trouble that we did last time when places were starting to be closed again, and some were allowed to be open, some were closed? It went a little bit haywire at one point of what could and couldn't happen.
Well, we still have that a little bit now, don't we, where you're allowed to open on the 12th of April. But not everything is. So obviously indoor places and things like that can't open until potentially May.
Yeah.
But everything's on the earlier. So I'd like to think this time we're not going to keep opening and closing. I like to think now that after this long of a period, lockdown, vaccines out, the parks and everybody now can start to plan to a longer future of being open now and continuing as we have done in the past.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all hope. It's all hope for us all, isn't it?
No, like well, let's keep his fingers crossed.
Again, when you think about all the big fairs and everything that was cancelled last year, not just in the UK, but across Europe, you got Goose Fares, your Newcastle Town Mall, Munich Oktoberfests, so Hyde Park Winter Wonderland. So it's a shame to see all the big, and music festivals.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to see them crowds again, though? Or do you think it might have put a few people off?
I think a lot of people will go back to normal. But I think some people, like I said just a minute ago, I think some people will be nervous.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to say, isn't it?
No, we want to see things back to what they used to be.
No, definitely.
Want to see Goose Fare absolutely buzzing again.
Well, Goose Fare is obviously our local fair. And it's something that, we want to try and get some new attractions and things back in there. So no, Goose Fare is the one that we want to see absolutely buzzing. New rides on there. That's what I'd love to see again. Just keep, moving on. I think we went through a few years ago, didn't we? Where every year there was something new coming into Goose Fare.
Yeah.
You obviously had AB Danter's Air. We had the Extremes, the Star Flyers, the Capriolos. So we had some amazing rides just keep cropping up different times. And then it just slowed down. And I'd like to see that come back again. But again, it's difficult for people to invest in the new rides, especially the way things have been.
Yeah. Have you got anything in particular, though, that might be on the horizon that you want to try out for yourself when the time arises?
For me to ride?
Yeah.
Or for us to bring to Goose Fare?
For you to personally ride?
Not really. I like anything new. In the older days, I used to love anything. My favourite ride was the Capriolo. And I'd still say to many people that's the best ride ever, especially if it's driven right, because it's the free rolling car. I went on the one at Milton Keynes, the Eclipse. I think it come from Belgium or wherever, and it was the first time I'd ever seen one. In fact, the first time I saw it was in Hull Fair. I think we had the Frisbee there and maybe the Big Ben Tower, and the thing was riding full all the time, so full that it's only got a capacity, I think, of 8 or 10 people. I didn't dare go and ask for a ride because a showman we go on and get on the rides for free of charge. It's just what you do between each other, but you never go and ask if there's a queue. It's just in principle, because you're taking the seat of a paying customer. So I sat watching this ride for almost 2 weeks at Hull thinking, what a ride. I never got to go on it. And then when it came to Milton Keynes, I saw it there and I thought, right, I'm having a ride. And I had a ride with Lee Harris, who works with us. I think he was moving the Crazy Shake at the time, but he still works with us now and helps us out on moving all the bigger kit. And my God, that was some ride. It really was. Rolling it down, upside down to the ground and completely feeling those G-forces whip you back up. I've never been on one since, but now we actually own 2 of them now overseas in Saudi.
Yeah.
And we know that there's a brake on there to restrict. And I think as things are going on, I know there's a few other rides now that are having to have magnetic brakes put on them to stop the whip so much.
Yeah.
Because of the way the new laws and things are.
Yeah.
Is there anything I'm looking forward to now? Anything new? But I still remember some of the good older rides that I've had and think actually, newer rides have a lot to live up to compete because of the new laws, unfortunately.
Yeah. Is there any of the old rides that you really genuinely miss riding that you think we could have that back and have it back?
Crazy Shake, probably. I used to enjoy actually going out and having a ride on that. I never found it sickly. Whereas a lot of rides, like for instance, the Frisbee used to make me feel ill. That just going around looking in one direction. The top scans, I used to really enjoy riding them. But the Crazy Shake was one that you could get off. If one of my friends was getting on, I'd run out the cash box and jump on and have a ride with them, kind of thing. So I think there's lots of different rides. The first Shake I ever had a ride on only rocked, and it was me and Edward had a ride on it in Hamburg. We actually went at that point in time to look at if everybody knows the Flick Flack. It was a Huss ride called the Mega Dance at the time. So
yeah.
So we went out there to Hamburg to have a look at a Mega Dance because somebody wanted to build as a Mega Dance. And we had a ride on the Mega Dance. And I think the cars only flicked out at the time. They didn't go all the way over.
Yeah.
And we went on the Shake, and the Shake only rocked again, didn't go all the way over. And from there, we actually chose the Shake as we liked the best. But me and Edward had a ride, and we said, wouldn't this be great if it could go all the way over? And that's what we then developed. But in the time it took us to build one day, I actually built one to go all the way over as well.
Yeah,
so it just took us a long time.
It was built by yourselves, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's another story altogether, is the Crazy Shake. It wasn't supposed to be built by ourselves. It was built by a manufacturer. Unfortunately, one thing led to another that we ended up having to finish it ourselves, and pretty much ended up buying the factory. So
wow.
we ended up building the Shake ourselves. It was because my dad was determined. One, he put a lot of money into it. It went well over double its budget. And he was determined that he put the money in and he wanted to make it happen. The Crazy Shake was going to come out, and it wasn't going to come out then because he was building it himself. It wasn't going to come out half finished.
Yeah.
So he then was determined that when it comes out, it had to look its best. So almost that's a complete long another story. But that really drove him to actually put more money in the ride than what it needed. But because, he had his pride. That was what that one finished about. And we did it. In the end, it come out, it looked good, it did its job, and people still talk about it.
No, we definitely need to talk about that more at some point, because even I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all.
There's lots of things. There's so many stories about that Crazy Shake. Yeah, I think the Crazy Shake actually...
It's infamous, I think, that now. It's like so many people talk about that ride still to this day.
They do. And that ride, I say, still made... I mean, again, it's probably another thing on the rides, but the Crazy Shake made me and Edward from boys into men.
Yeah.
It changed the outlook. Previous to the Crazy Shake, we had an Orbiter and a Miami. I had a twist ride before that, and I moved them, like I said before, 13, 14, whatever it was. But they were easy rides. Everybody was going easier in those days. When we got the Crazy Shake, all of a sudden it was hard, very hard.
Yeah.
But what it made us realize is it wasn't that hard when you put your mind to it. Instead of a ride that took an hour, this one was taking you 6 or 7 hours to pull down.
Yeah.
So as long as you enjoyed it, it wasn't a big deal. So then what it allowed us to move on from the Crazy Shake to think, actually, you know what, let's have a go at a Frisbee. Let's have a go at a Big Ben. Let's have a go at a roller coaster. So the crazy, if we hadn't have bought the Crazy Shake, maybe we would have stuck to the easier route of rides. Maybe we wouldn't have been as successful as we have. But what that ride made us do was work and actually enjoy the work and think, well, actually, it's not that bad. So, and that was kind of where it all started.
Yeah. Obviously, talking about that it was self-built and everything, if you've never crossed your mind to think, should we have a go at building something else?
Definitely. Many occasions. And we are already planning to do little bits ourselves on different things, because we're with Fantasy Island now, to get the attractions to fit where we want, we're having to make lots of amendments, do different things. So yeah, there's elements of things that we're already looking at now of what we can do in the future.
Brilliant. That sounds fun. I'm looking forward to finding out what that's going to be then.
Some things will have to stay secret until the launch time. But, yeah.
I mean, talking about Fantasy Island and launches, it's just been announced that the Maura spinning coasters come in as well, that I'm personally really looking forward to.
Yeah, well, I mean, we bought it last year. We had different intentions, different ideas, but then obviously because of COVID, everything changed around and changed everything. So we've got plans for it at the moment. So we're putting the Maura coaster now in there, which I think gives Fantasy Island again another breath of fresh air, another new ride for the moment.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't really fit everything in there. As you know, it's tight for space. But Ice Mountain will return, as we've said. But again, watch this space.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that, because it will be my 200th coaster credit. But as an enthusiast yourself, do you count credits as well?
No, not at all. I could not tell you half the rides that I've been on, and I forget most of them. So no, I've never counted rides.
I think it's one of the things, you have to count your coasters to know how many you've gone, and I think for 200 is quite low. There's no people with loads more than that. Yeah.
See, I mean, I watch a lot of the different podcasts and reviews of parks because I like other people's opinions on what they think. And to be fair, I haven't done that many parks. I've never been to Europa Park yet, even though the Mac family have invited me to go there as their guests and have a look at the park. So that's something I definitely want to do, probably this next year if it allows. But yeah, I've done Disney, I've done Universal, but I've never done any of the European parks and different things. And there's some great coasters out there at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah.
Some great
is it when you go to other parks and you see things, you're like, oh, we need one of them. We want one of them. I want one of them.
Do, but you're like a kid in a sweet spot. Yeah. We just don't have the budget, unfortunately, that some of those do.
Yeah.
And that's the problem when you're looking at some of those parks. I mean, even Blackpool's done it great with Icon and, but you see Europa Park and Disney. I just walk around and come out there with loads of photos of lampposts and signposts and hardly any pictures of the kids. So if you want a picture of the kids, you have to look at my wife's phone. If you want to know what a curbstone looks like in Disney, then look on mine. So I can't help it.
That's the first time I've ever heard anybody go anywhere like that and take photos of things like
that. Well, just like the sound, the positions of the speakers, how good they do it, the size of things. I said before, when I go anywhere, I'm more looking at how it's done as opposed to enjoying what's there on offer.
Yeah.
But I enjoy doing what I do. I enjoy what's on offer, and I enjoy looking at the people's response and then think, well, wow, how have they done that so good? So
yeah,
my phone is full of photos. I've even got photos in there called Fantasy Island Ideas, because it was just little ideas. And I've got photos from Regent's Park Zoo, for instance, where I saw a lamppost and I just liked the way the style was with a flag on it and things, and I took photos.
Yeah.
So you could go through my phone and they're so random, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. When you come down to Fantasy Island again, when you come down not as the owner, as just enjoying the place, what will the first ride be that you'll be on?
Spinning Racer this year for sure, but I can't go to Fantasy Island just as a customer. I can't, even when I go with the family and friends. I'm just too busy looking around. And if I'm there a lot of the time, I probably won't ride the rides. I'd rather let the kids go on and I'll just stand back and look at the operations and everything else.
Yeah.
So like I said, even when I go to Alton Towers, for instance, I'm always looking at the operations, the way things work. And it's not that, I don't know why, I'm probably just wasting my time to be fair, because it's not as though I'm going to change anything. But I'm intrigued. I like to look at the way everybody else does things.
Yeah. I know there's been a few instances when people have mentioned that, you know, they've seen you when they're working there, they've seen you on the park and that, but I think there's a lot of people still there that don't actually know who you are. Have you never thought of doing like Undercover Boss?
I feel like an undercover boss when I go, because sometimes I'm like, can I have a ride, please? Can I, you know, especially if I want to try and jump the queue. And they don't know who I am. So I kind of walk around with a radio and just wave the radio in front so people can see I've got a radio. So I think undercover boss just doesn't work. I can tell for miles off. So let's say when I've been in Germany and I'll go and watch a ride and I'll pay for a ride, or I'll go up and they say to me, are you a UK showman, Schausteller? And I'll be like, yes. So we just stand out. I think because of the way we're looking at the rides and monitoring at the operations, I think to anybody, I couldn't be an undercover because I would just stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, when you're saying about Undercover Boss and TV programs, we had on the telly the other night again, Hard Labour, which a lot of people tuned
I watched
into.
that myself. I did watch it myself. I watched it myself with the kids.
Is it nice to watch back?
A little bit cringy at times, because you're just looking at yourself how you was, but I remember how we was, and we was in a big rush to move them rides at the time.
Yeah.
And I was trying to involve the lads as much as I could, but without getting them into situations, you know, obviously they hadn't had loads of training. You know, they were new. They came to us new. So I had to try and push them as much as I could, but without putting them into any situations where it could be dangerous for them.
Yeah.
So it was hard to try and do my work and at the same time make a TV show. And that was the problem. Sometimes, you know, the camera was in my face and I had to say, just move out the way. And some bits was almost reenacting on there because you'd do something and they'd miss it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I haven't got the time to keep doing it. So it was quite hard. But yeah, it's quite nice to look back, and it definitely brings back the memories, because the kids keep saying to me, why did you have to break into that unit? Why did you have to do that? Because, you know, the kid that was sleeping, I don't think it showed me climb through the window. I can't
It did, yeah.
Yeah, the door was locked and I just went round checking all the doors and found a cubbyhole that was open. So I climbed in it. So there was loads of memories I've got from it. But yeah, and I'll tell you what was nice. All the rides looked immaculate.
Yeah.
And I think that's a proud bit. When I look back, the trailers were clean, the rides were clean. And that, yeah, I was proud of everything back in the day.
Yeah, I think the question that a lot of people ask when that comes on telly is, the lad that stayed on, how did he do?
He did okay. He stayed with us. I think that was filmed in March time, and he stayed with us until August. And unfortunately, we had to let him go just purely because the drinking got in the way a little bit, and he started to just cause a couple of problems.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we had to let him go in the end. But he was a good kid. He had potential. But sometimes, unfortunately, that happens. People can just go back off the path.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I've not spoken to him since, so I don't know what he's been doing since then.
Yeah. Did you enjoy the experience of being involved in a teleprogram like that?
If you want me to be honest, and this might be a good platform, I was nervous about doing it because I've done plenty before. Our first, and I've never seen it since, so if anybody can find it, let me know. And you might be a good one for this, Tracy. I did Why Don't You?
Oh.
Do you ever remember Why Don't You?
I do remember that program, yes.
So Why Don't You had two of the kids come along, and they had a little television program. And I must have been, it was on the Orbiter days. So I would have been less than 10 when that was filmed. And I remember it. And this little guy said, oh, I know some friends of mine, James and Edward Mellors, and they come along and did a bit of filming with us. And I think Kiwi, who was on Hard Labour, was still on Why Don't You? So Kiwi has been with us for so many years.
I'm going to see,
but I've never seen the program since. I think we had it on the old VHS video. My mum and dad probably recorded it. Then we did another documentary which followed us around for 3 weeks. Again, Days of the Crazy Shake. So I'm probably going back to late 90s. And the documentary followed me for 3 weeks. And we gave them almost everything they wanted. It was a life following us around. And then when they got to Goose Fare, they actually then started to ask other people questions, like the work staff and different people like that. And they were asking them questions that they couldn't answer. But unfortunately, they put, I think it was a few £100 behind the bar, got a load of guys drunk, and then started to get wrong information for people that didn't actually know the correct answers. And then when it was edited, I thought it was a bad show. I was really disappointed. The fact that they followed me around for 3 weeks from morning till night on everything that we did, and then didn't show everything. And then they went and clipped different bits from different showmen, different people. And actually then, I mean, there was one part where I was actually washing the floors on the Crazy Shake, because I used to scrub the floors in the checker plate, because the grids go both ways. You have to scrub both directions. If you only scrub one direction, dirt stays in one bit. So I remembered I always used to do it myself, show the lads how to do it. And the cameras was there all the time. And in the end, I just said to the cameraman, look, I need to go. I've got to get my work done. Otherwise, my dad's going to kill me. My dad wasn't going to say anything, because he didn't really know half the time. It was just a please go away, let me get on with my work. Anyway, they then filmed my dad on a different time. And my dad said, oh no, the boys, we let them do what they want, but then they cut it. So 1 second they've got my dad saying, yeah, we let them do as they want. But on the next clip, it had me saying, oh, I'm going to have to go because my dad will kill me. Which was completely, edited untruth.
Yeah.
So then when we'd done the last one, which was hard labor, I actually laid down and I said, look, I don't want it making us look bad, because we're not that way. I know how you can edit things. I know you can do this, you can do the other. So I think I actually requested that we viewed it before they aired it, and they said they agreed to it.
Yeah.
So I've learned over the years of, unfortunately, misinterpretation of our business.
Yeah. Would you do anything ever again?
Of course I would. Of course I would. I mean, I've seen different films on, in fact, again, my mum was on a program years ago. She was minding a ski jump ride. And I remember it. They took her out and then had somebody else potentially in the box who was operating, and then chewing on gum, big earrings in, and just completely changed the look of who we actually are. But that was what sold the television programs. So what I was really liked, things happen. I think, most of the time when you see a fairground or something on an Emmerdale or something like that, it's because something bad happens, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is, but you don't get that sometimes good time where people come down the site and actually just enjoy it. They always seem to portray it bad. So I would do things again. I enjoyed hard labor. I think it proved in the end the way we do work. And I think we would actually plan to be, number 5 or 6. This is what they said at the time. We would plan to be number 5 or 6 of a series, but the producers enjoyed it so much that actually we ended up being number 1 of a series. And that was what they aired.
Yeah.
And not so long back, actually, I had somebody come and film me. Gosh, what was that for? Somebody come and filmed us not so long ago. And he was actually the film man from Hard Labor. The same cameraman. And he said, oh, I remember you doing this and that back then. And it was the same cameraman.
Yeah.
So no, I would do more. I enjoyed it. What I enjoyed the most was I even had fellow showmen and other people saying, it was portrayed well for the business. That's what I enjoyed the most. I enjoyed trying to put out there who we are. Hence the reason I'm sat here talking with you, really, on a lot of things. There's a lot of people don't understand showmen, don't understand the industry. Even amusement park people, even people that own amusement parks, unfortunately, do not get showmen.
Yeah.
They Balper. You've had the Showman's Guild that looked after the showmen. You had Balper that looked after the British Association of Leisure Parks Peers or whatever it is, Parks Peers Association. And they didn't look at showmen in the same way. Now, there's good and bad in everybody. I've said this before. So that's what I like to try and put out there, is that don't judge everybody.
Yeah.
And there's some good operations out there. Anyway, I don't know where we started on this. We're drifting again, aren't we?
I think there is that thing of when people that own parks and fairgrounds, 2 different things. Where would you class the cut-off line of being a showman?
There isn't no cut-off. When you're a showman, you're always a showman. That's it.
Even
though we own a park, we want to take that showmanship
to
the next level. I mean, my dad used to have a bingo store. That's what they started out with, was bingo. And he used to say it was all about the show of how you displayed your bingo prizes, how you work the microphone to get people around. So even going back from then till now, it's still the same.
Yeah.
It's how we want to present the rides, how you want to try and do the next bit. We all want to be Disney because Disney is one of the greatest shows on earth.
Yeah.
You know, everything about it is just perfect. But Disney is a different model. Disney has the financial backing of the movies. And I think originally it was kind of, was it the other way around? I think the movies supported the park, but then the park supported the movies. Their model completely changed.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard because, again, you go to some, you know, the Merlin parks, they just have different budgets. So we're all still the same, just unfortunately have different budgets, but we still want to try and bring that greatest show on earth. And I think if people don't want to do that, then I think they're in the wrong game, if you want me to be honest. That's my opinion on it. As a showman, it's about presenting your equipment the best you can. And if your equipment is not as good as somebody else's because you can't afford it, well, then that's fine. You know, there's nothing to say. As long as you're presenting it as best you can at that point in time, then that's being a showman.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
There's always that argument of are you born into it? Are you not born into it? Are you a showman or not? What are your feelings on that?
No, I think when you're born into it, because I know a lot of showmen that don't travel anymore, that don't have anything to do with the business anymore. There's a lot of people moved out of it now. So historically, yes, you was born into it and you kind of saw it day in, day out. And that's what made you love the equipment like babies. And they really were. My dad always said, and he still says now, never fall in love with a piece of equipment. And I think he was told that years ago. And you'd have to ask him sometime when he's on it who actually said it, because there's been some great tips and things that people have said down the line over the years. You know, if you can afford new, go new. That's something that's always been said. But like you said, it's whether you can afford it or not at the time. So where did I just go with that now? I can't even remember. So I can't even remember where I've just gone now. Threw myself completely off track. What was we talking about?
People that are born into it, opposed to people that buy into it.
So I think some people buy into the industry and just think, I can buy a ride. You know, it looks like a great industry. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
But then I've got, like I just said, Kiwi, a lad that works for me still. He's been with us probably for 30 odd years. There's many people now that are in the industry that weren't necessarily born into it. But as long as you get that same passion about the rides and things, then I think that's the same thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't think you have to be born into it now, but you've got to have that level of passion. Yeah. And you tend to find that most of the ones that were born into it do have a real passion for their equipment.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's where I went to. My dad was told never fall in love with your equipment, but we do.
Yeah.
We do. You know, I know he fell in love with a paratrooper ride because that's what made us. I fell in love with a crazy shake.
Yeah.
You know, and when it come to that final, taking it down and going away, I didn't do it. I stayed away from it because I felt too much about it. And I used to get upset when somebody, and I still do, if somebody damages a part of the ride, I get upset about it. You know, and the one thing I always say to people, and, you know, I don't know if there's people listening to this that may have worked for me in the past, and they'll probably remember me saying it. You know, just because something's scratched doesn't mean you can scratch it more. If I had a Ferrari there, would you lean that sweeping brush up against my Ferrari? No. Well, then don't lean it up against my ride, because that ride is worth more than 4 Ferraris.
Yeah.
You know, and when people say, well, it was scratched already. Okay, so you've got a Ferrari with a scratch on it. Does that mean it's okay to scratch it again? No. And that's how I feel about all of my rides with everything. You know, the work and effort. Unfortunately, when you get more and more rides around you and everything else, it's harder to keep on top of everything the way you would want. You know, I think I, for one, will not say that our equipment has never been the best in the industry. And I dare say it never will be, because unfortunately now we don't have the time to make it the best of presentations. I would like to, but we've also made our equipment work for us. And we've kind of had that motto that we're not working for our equipment. Sometimes the rides can take so much of your life up that you actually end up with no life as a showman, because all your time is dedicated to your equipment. So we had to be careful that we didn't want to fall into that trap. Whilst we enjoyed the business and loved it, it was a business.
Yeah. What you were saying about falling in love with rides, it brings me on to a good question about the one that's behind me. And this is one of these questions that a little birdie told me, is when the Beast left Fantasy Island, the music was picked purposely to make people sad. Is that true?
100%. It was, I think we needed to give it a send-off, and I didn't want to see people crying, but I actually got the idea, if you want me to be honest, from Rudy Robron in Holland. When we bought the Frisbee, which has been there, he actually played that song as the last ride, and he owned that ride for, I think it was for almost 20 years. And he actually made a little speech on the microphone, and he said to all the people of Hamburg, to all the family, to all the riders, to the city council, thank you for having Frisbee for so many years as part of your festivals. And he played that song, and all the family was in tears. And I just thought, wow, that was so emotional, so emotional. So then when it come to removing the beast, and I realized how emotional people was about the beast actually going, it was a bit more than just taking a ride out. It really was.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give it a send-off, not a funeral. A funeral was probably the wrong thing. So that's why we had the daytime fireworks, and I wanted the song. It wasn't to make people sad. That's probably the wrong way of doing it. But all the songs,
there was a lot of tears that day.
What I was doing is I wanted to put the showmanship. It's exactly the same thing back.
Yeah.
Disney, attention to detail.
Yeah.
If you go back and listen to the playlist of that day, I think it was the last hour and a half before the beast closed. Every song was about something leaving. And not wanting to see it go.
Yeah.
Every single song. Now, we didn't broadcast that. That was just our attention to detail that we were trying to put in somewhere.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do that around the park. And we've done it in our business over the years. We've tried to put little bits of attention to detail that not everybody will notice, but we do. And that's called showmanship.
Yeah.
That's
if magic ever leaves, don't do that, because it'll take me weeks to get over that.
No, well, again, the beast, I think, was more important because it had just been there for a lot longer.
Yeah.
You know, you've seen Confusion we took out. We didn't do it with that one. Probably we should have done, but we took that one out at an earlier time. So I think if there's anything signature, then we will. But yeah, again, opening ceremonies, I'd love to keep doing that for the different rides for when they're new. But because we've had such a change of rides just recently, you know, we've had so many through there, we'd be having opening ceremonies every year, wouldn't we? Or 3 times a year. So once we get the next big feature ride for Fantasy Island, which will happen, then we'll have another big opening ceremony.
And what's that then?
Can't tell you yet.
I can try, can't I?
But there is, in fact, you know what? We might even have one this year because there's still some more attractions to be announced which haven't. Paige will kill me, and there will be more permanent rides. So you know, the things that maybe we can have another opening ceremony yet.
Yeah, I know there's talk at the moment that there's been people, in fact, that was the question that I was going to ask today about, there's been people down the yard taking photos of certain things that are there at the moment. Does that bother you?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, Phil Heath, God bless him, always used to come down the yards. Photos. Yeah, Phil, I did look at it when you come in. I think as you move, his name was there behind you.
Yeah, that's my tribute to Phil today.
We enjoyed seeing him. We enjoyed seeing Phil come down. Sometimes he was a pest because he would be down there all the time. And can you just move that a bit while I get this photo? No, Phil, we're trying to work. But you know what? Again, like I said, we're showmen. And I'm saying this for everybody in the country, the showmen. We enjoy seeing the enthusiasts, you know, wanting the photos of the lorries, wanting the photos of the rides, because they give us back that little bit, like I said, where so many people have a bad interpretation of showmen. Yeah. That when you see the enthusiasts and people that are so interested, yeah, it actually puts a smile back on your face and you enjoy it. So no, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to come in, have a look around, I've got no problems as long as we're doing it safely. You know, there's nothing there to be hidden. That at the end of the day, they're pieces of equipment, they're out and about, and then we'll let the conspiracists and everybody talk about what they think is happening next. Yeah. I enjoy some of the gossip as well sometimes.
Yeah. What about when it goes the other way? Obviously, when enthusiasts are on board with things, but what about when it turns negative? What's your feelings then? If you've invested in something and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be great, and then everyone goes,
you know what? There's been a few times, especially with the power of social media, that I feel like jumping in and getting onto people's backs and saying, just give it a rest, will you? You know, there's so many people saying, why don't you do this? Why don't they do that? It's ridiculous that they've done that. But again, you know, we're trying to do the best. You know, we're not all perfect. We've got our own ideas. I like to take criticism because we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. So I think constructive criticism is always good.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you've got to do anything about it. the greatest people out there. There's a fine line to say as well. And my boy only said this to his school teacher yesterday. There's a fine line between a crazy idea and a genius idea.
That's so true.
People would have thought Einstein was crazy all those years ago and different things, but then, look at what happened. So Isaac Newton, so you could go back to it, and there was a fine line between crazy and genius. So when people come up with these crazy situations, sometimes they're not so crazy, but you just have to turn it into a business thing. Actually, I'll take a bit of that, but I can't do it quite the way they're suggesting.
Yeah.
So like you said, we still have to have a business model in mind.
We're almost at the end of this podcast. So I'm going to finish on one question that somebody has asked that I think is going to be quite an interesting answer, to see if you can answer this. Out of all the rides that the Mellors Group have ever owned, can you name every single one?
Wow. Yeah. Out of all the ones we've ever owned, including all the ones in Saudi now.
Yeah.
And Fantasy Island.
Yeah. Past, present, everything.
My gosh, this would take some doing. It's not long enough. So if I go all the way back, would start with a paratrooper, the mini jets, the octopus, the ski jump, the Sizzler twist, the tropical fever, Insider. I'm thinking around now which ones I've missed. I need to write them all down. Insider, Crazy Shake, Frisbee, Big Ben, Space Roller, Magic Mouse with all its names that it had, River Rapids. My gosh, think of all the other rides. And then I could go on to Fantasy Island with another top. I mean, we've had 3 top scans as well with Speedway, the Beast, and Space Roller. So we've had 3 out of the 30 ever built. Fantasy Island, I can name all of those easy enough. Do I need to do them?
No, I think, we've got about 3 minutes left, so we might run out of time.
And then now out in Saudi, what have we got in Saudi now? We've got we had the Around the World, which we sold, and we purchased the Around the World back. So we've got the Around the World, we've got Psycho, we've got the Dodgem, Test Track, Power Tower, Jumper, my God, Log Flume, the Wildwasser, the Bayern Rush Slide, Artistico, 2 Extreme Capriolo. We've got, oh my God, what's the other one called? It's almost too long to mention now. If you put everything together, it's too long to mention.
Yeah, you did a lot better than I thought, though.
Yeah, no, I could remember everyone. I could go through every single one.
No, because I think
everyone has played a part, Tracy, in...
Yeah, somebody was asking if it's possible to get the whole back catalogue, and I was like, I know somebody that can do that. If anyone can do it.
Yeah, no, I don't know if you can hear me okay, but the headphones have gone off, so I'll take them off. But yeah, I could remember every single one, and I could write a list of every single one.
Brilliant. So that's better than anybody else managed to do, and it does take us to it exactly. We're out of time now. So I hope you've enjoyed yourself, and I hope everybody's enjoyed listening. And we'll see you again. And don't forget, if you do have any questions, you can send them in on the social media, and we'll get James to answer them for you.
Exactly. So, that's the thing. If anybody's got any other questions, because like you said, we're here to just have a chat and talk, like we've said, about the industry, to not to portray a particular message, but to let people know we're approachable and we do enjoy the business. But if anyone's got any questions, then happy to chat.
Yeah, definitely to send them in. So we'll see you next time, and enjoy your day. Bye.
You've been listening to Life Is A Rollercoaster, a podcast about the past, present and future of the events and attractions industry. If you'd like future updates about our podcasts, please like and subscribe.